So next we have a man who's making some big waves. You've probably heard of his name already. He is an independent candidate for U.S. Senate in Nebraska. Please put your hands together for Dan Osborn.
Well, hello, my name's Dan Osborn. I'm running for United States Senate. I should have started out and said, my name's Dan Osborn. I'm an independent. I've been an independent for over 20 years. But a little bit about me. I joined the Navy right out of high school. Oh.
I just want to say that Dan Osborn's the fucking man, and we have to get him into the U.S. Senate in Nebraska. Get this man out.
Mr. Yang, what a pleasure. Always a pleasure. But I joined the Navy right out of high school. My grandfather, he retired from the Navy. This is his 1955 officer candidate school ring, so he goes everywhere I go. My parents, they both met while they were in the Navy. My uncles were all in the Navy, and then my older brother joined the Marine Corps, so we don't talk to him anymore. But I did 2 tours aboard the, what was that? Get him a crayon. Yeah, get him a crayon. She said get him a crayon. That's funny. I did 2 tours aboard the USS Constellation. As a young man, I got to see the world twice over. That was a good start to becoming a man, I feel like. But I got out, and I came back to Omaha, where I'm from. I started attending the University of Nebraska at Omaha. Oh, yeah, go Mavericks. I didn't graduate, though, sorry. I then joined the Nebraska Army National Guard to continue my service. I've always felt compelled to serve. I did those for about 3.5 years, and then my life changed. My wife had my first daughter, Georgia, who is now a classically trained professional dancer in Hollywood. It's a proud dad moment. But I knew when she was born I had to go get a job. Something with some benefits, something with some insurance. So I got a job working at Kellogg's as an industrial mechanic. One of my first days on the job, an old Polish guy by the name of Ron Jabowski came up to me. He looked just like Tom Selleck from Magnum P.I. He said, "Hey kid, have you joined the union yet?" I said, "No, sir, I have not." And he said, "Well, you might want to think about doing that." I'm like, well, shit, Tom Selleck's telling me to join the union. I'm going to go do that. So I did. I paid my dues for a lot of years, kept my head down, worked real hard. And Kellogg's used to be a very family-friendly oriented company. I don't know if you know anything about W.K. Kellogg. He always said his people were his number one resources and asset. And the old guys always took care of the union business. Well, over the years, Kellogg's became more beholden to their stockholders. And the old guys started to retire. I became one of the old guys, and we started to lose on some contracts. So I decided to run for my executive board. I got elected vice president. It was a complete changing of the guard. About 3 months later, the president stepped down because you get yelled at a lot in that role by both management and hourly alike. But I knew the role was important, so I assumed it. I did that for about a year, and this is really kind of where my origin into politics started. Haven't always been a real political guy. But during COVID, we were working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week as essential workers. And there was 4 North American plants under the umbrella of our master contract. We were all working those hours. At one point in time, 50% of our workforce was forced quarantine. But we kept all 4 of those plants running at 100% capacity. And Kellogg's made record profits that year. They went from $19 billion to $21 billion profit. The CEO gave himself a $2 million raise. The board enriched themselves. The stockholders enriched themselves. So I figured, well, and then our contract expired that year. I figured it's going to be a no-brainer, right? We're going to get a little sliver of the pie. Instead, they sat across the table from us, and they said, we're going to go after your health insurance. We're going to take your cost of living, which is our only form of wage increases designed to keep us even with inflation based off of government index, and we all know how that's gone. And then we're going to implement a 2-tier wage system with no path for a lower-tier employee to go to the upper tier. So eventually everybody's going to be on the lower tier. So for me as president, that was my oh crap moment. There hadn't been a strike in Nebraska since 1972. So I had to learn what that meant. I had to learn how to picket, why to picket, where to picket. I created a schedule for 500 of my members, started drumming up early support, so that way when October 5th midnight rolled around, we could not come to an agreement. So we shut down 4 North American plants and we walked off the job to preserve our wages and benefits. Certainly one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, take 500 of my friends, their family members into the great unknown, not knowing if we're going to have a job at the end of it. But we all felt we were on the right side of history. And I knew out on the picket line, Democrats were going to come out and support, because that's traditionally what they do. They support labor. But me being an independent-minded person, I set out to make it a nonpartisan issue. Out on the picket line, there's no men or women or black or white or Republican or Democrat. It's just people that want to go to work and earn a fair wage and some benefits for the time that they sacrifice in service to the company. So I was able to I had a 10-minute meeting set up with Republican Congressman Don Bacon in CD2 in Nebraska with one of his staffers. That 10-minute meeting turned into about 2 hours, because I think when you put human face and human emotion to an idea or an issue, it can change minds. And it did. Congressman Bacon came out to the picket line and he shook hands with our members in support of what we were trying to do. I then saw Governor Pete Ricketts, now U.S. Senator Pete Ricketts from Nebraska, at an event I was at. I cornered him and I told him who I was and what was going on in his state. He agreed to meet me at the Capitol. So I drove out to Lincoln a few days later, and kind of the same thing there. He drafted a letter to the CEO, Steve K. Lane, imploring him to get our people back to work. Those were just a couple of the things that I did that I was proud of during the strike, that added pressure to Kellogg's to give us a contract. But we were on strike for 77 days. We settled just before Christmas, and we preserved everything we had fought for as a union for 65 years. Thank you. But I remember walking back in my manufacturing plant just feeling a huge sense of pride, right? What we were able to accomplish. We preserved 500 jobs in Nebraska and 1,500 around the country. And that's why I'm running for U.S. Senate today. I want to continue to be a voice for working class people, because I don't think there's anybody like me in the United States Senate. First of all, I'd be the only one with a union card, which is kind of strange to me, but I don't take that lightly. But I think it's a country club of millionaires that work for billionaires. I get frustrated with their corporate agendas. That's the way our politics are these days. It takes a tremendous amount of money to run for office. They're going to spend $100 million, Texas, Montana, and Florida. That's disgusting. That disgusts me. Should disgust everyone. But Robin Williams, the comedian, he said it best when he said our politicians should be wearing NASCAR jackets with patches of their sponsors so we know how they're going to vote. And my opponent is no different. She's got a lot of patches on her jacket, and we see how she votes. Nebraska's a huge railroading state. I'm actually from Denver. I was born in Inglewood, right down the road. Yeah. And the school district I would have been in if I had stayed here was Columbine. But I moved to Omaha when I was in first grade because my dad was a railroader in the UP's headquarters in Omaha. But Deb Fisher take 4 of her top 11 donors are Class 1 railroads. And we have the biggest rail yard in the world in North Platte, Nebraska. We've had 5 train derailments in the last 2 months. And she consistently votes against the Rail Safety Act. She actually headed the transportation that allowed railroads to police their own safety. And now they have death, a certain level of death factored in as acceptable. That's the danger of the NASCAR jacket patches. 2-man train crews, things like that, she's no good on. Somebody's going to get killed, and it's just what's going to happen. But we're being different. We're not taking a dime of corporate money. We've raised over $3 million to date, broken all the records for independence. My average donation is $35. So this campaign, it really, truly is powered by the people. You know, I always carry a copy of the Constitution with me everywhere I go. You know, and that's the way the framers of the Constitution intended this country and this government to be, a government for and by the people. Right now, the way I see it, it's a government for the 1% in corporations. And I know this to be true because $50 trillion, with a T, has migrated from the bottom 90% of Americans, so most of us, to the top 1%. It's the biggest migration of wealth in human history. And you know, I ask myself all the time how that happens, and I think it all traces back to these corporations will never stop trying to buy Congress people. But I'm not going to sell out. I want to be beholden to the people in Nebraska, and that's it, the way it was intended. But thank you all for listening to me rant for a bit, and thank you, the INC. This is awesome. Yeah, I appreciate everyone.
Hey, Dan, don't go anywhere. I'm Carrie Healy, and I'm the executive chair of the Forward Party, and I just want to say that we need candidates like you. And I hope you will accept our endorsement, and I certainly hope that you'll be a forward independent in the Senate.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great story.